Welcome back to the Dividend Diplomats YouTube channel, guys. You've got your favorite dividend broskies here, Bert and Lanny. Again, the Dividend Diplomats, the best dividend investing channel in all of social media, guys. And today's video is focused, and we're going to bring it to you really hot and heavy. I have a stock that I think all the metrics are saying, why the heck would you own this stock? It's time to sell with a very competitive and comparable stock to buy at the same time. Is it time to swap right now?
Before you sell, everyone, you need to subscribe to our channel. Give this video a thumbs up. Help us get to those 20,000 subscribers. 2024 has been the year of our portfolio review. It's been the year where we have taken a critical look at our positions that we've accumulated over 10 plus years of dividend investing. Landing nearly 15, I think I'm 13, 14. We're saying, are we liking? Or is it time for us to move on, sell, and reposition it into different stocks that we like better?
No, I mean, you're exactly right, Bert. If you guys haven't caught the videos this year, I know Bert has done a few. I've done a hell of a lot, right, Bert? I mean, from the number of stock positions I had, which is well over 70, finally down to about 62 stock positions. And I think I have another opportunity to move down one more notch down that rung. Bird, do you think I've sold and gotten rid of a lot of stock positions this year?
No, no, I'm kidding. Yeah, you have. You have. I mean, you've trimmed, thinking through them, I can think of at least what, 8 or 9 that you've gotten rid of this year, which is a lot. Some of them have been easy decisions, but some of them have been really difficult decisions. Some of them it's been hard to let them go, hard to move on, accept defeat in some of the cases. Other ones you've enjoyed their successes, you've ridden them to gains, but you said it was time to go. It's never an easy decision, but the goal is to try and take the emotion out of the decision, look at the numbers, and make it an emotionless investing decision. That's what we strive for.
Yeah, I mean, you hit it on the head. Sometimes it's just nice to cut the ties, move on, sleep better at night, consolidate the portfolio into higher quality positions. And that's hopefully what we're doing here, guys. Again, we're filming this on October 24th, about 10 o'clock here at night. The dividend diplomats don't sleep because money doesn't sleep, guys. We're here for you guys pretty much almost around the clock, bringing you dividend stock analyses, news, and investment updates here. And here's another one. Again, this is all personal. We're transparent. We show you stock purchases, show you stocks we're going to buy, stocks that we sell, stocks that we're going to sell. We tell you it, we show it, we talk about it. So, Bert, we're going to head into the chemical space here because a stock that you hold, a stock that I hold, Dow Chemical Inc., ticker symbol Dow, DOW. So it's always hard to find the live ticker because they always want to pull up the Dow Jones Index. They got to figure that out. They got to get that right. So I found out if you type in Dow Chemical,
Well, if you
you'll
execute on what we're going to talk about here, if that's where the route you take, you might never have to worry about this problem again, lady.
exactly, yeah. Talk about another pain that I could actually wipe my hands free of.
Do you hate
But
that or international company dividends more?
probably international.
Yeah.
But good, valid point. So they released earnings though today, and they still had what, Bert, 11 billion almost in revenue, which is great.
Yeah.
But earnings were way down versus prior year. Down from 30 cents. They earned 30 cents gap earnings versus 42 cents last quarter's linked quarter. So down quite a bit. 12 cents on that is actually a steep amount year over year. And then Bert, operating earnings per share that they like to show is pretty much flat from prior period as well. But what else were some of your takeaways? I know we were talking about this before we hit the record button.
Yeah. And I mean, just to add to that one point there too, that's what I noticed too when you look at the revenue. It's flat. Revenue's flat. Gap earnings has a lot of noise. But then, as we were joking before we were recording, we talked about the cash flow because that's whenever we've talked about Dow on our channel, the cash flow comes up. Everyone says, let's look at cash flow. Let's look at what's going on here. What the heck is happening with Dow Chemicals cash flow and their free cash flow? Let's go to the earnings release, Lanny.
Yeah. And the reason why cash flow is always brought up is because I think the last couple of videos where we talked about possibly moving on or alarming the bells with high dividend payout ratio stocks is because Dow historically has had about 100% dividend payout ratio. We'll get into the metrics, don't you worry, but we're
But
going to,
this is the important one. This is the important one because it's the counterpoint to why the payout ratio isn't a concern. Let's pull up the free cash flow. We'll put up the chart that we see here from the earnings release. For the 9 month ended, they had cash provided from operating activities of 2.09 billion, right, Lanny?
right.
Last year at the same period, 3.536 billion. So cash flow from operations down, down pretty.
Mm-mm-mm.
What else are they doing, Lanny? Like many consumers in the United States, Dow continues to spend, and they continue to spend more than they had in the previous year. Last year, they had 1.6 billion in capital expenditures. This year, 2.2 billion in capital expenditures. You net them together for Dow to get that free cash flow. And what are the numbers here for their free cash flow year over year for the 9 months?
Year over year, right now it's negative 81 million. Um, and then quarter over linked quarter, they only had free cash flow of 64 million versus a billion. So free cash flow overall is just down
No bueno. And that's the thing. It's one thing when you're seeing,
or negative.
yeah, it when we're going to bring up the metrics here, it's one thing to see everything trending in the direction, and you can say, yes, you're adjusting GAAP EPS, you're adjusting earnings to get to a better number, and every other trend is moving up in the right direction. GAAP earnings per share is going down as flat. Cash flow is going down from last year. Revenue is stagnant. Which is not the trends you want to see.
No, exactly. So as a dividend investor, once you start really getting this dividend investing news from earnings, hey, it's okay to move on from a stock that, again, it's only up about 1% over 5 years, down 8% this year. Dow's down 5% in the last month. Granted, it was actually trading, I think, near 60 earlier this year. So they've just constantly have swung in this 50 to $60 range. And I'm looking at my stock position. It's not large. I own 31 shares,
Yeah.
and they only trade at $50.99.
Not a massive position, one that
No,
you're tracking, but it doesn't make a significant impact on your portfolio's overall allocations.
yeah, it's 15 to $1,600. I have an overall net unrealized gain, of about $47 holding the stock. And we'll look at the metrics, guys, because now the debate is we've talked and showed Lyondell Basel quite a bit here on this channel. Granted, they're actually down over 5 years by like 2 or 3%. They're down, getting crushed this year, down 8% year to date, down 12% the last 6 months, down 8% in the last month. Market caps are pretty similar, 36 billion from Dow and about 29 billion from LYB. But the one thing LYB, and we'll get into it, is the dividend payout ratio and dividend growth are far different for the two companies. And,
It's interesting to have two in the same industry. It's rare that you find that similar market cap, similar companies, similar sectors that just have such differences and such deviations in these types of in how they operate.
yeah, and the caveat though is too, Dow just released earnings, right? LYB actually won't release earnings until next Friday. Um, and does this trend that Dow have continue with LYB as well? Is kind of the curiosity, right?
Right.
Um,
Sell now, hold it, buy LYB if you think it's a trend that's going to keep going on.
yeah, but I got an idea, Bert. Right? It's the DD stock screener time. We'll look at the
Get
price to
anywhere.
earnings, the payout ratio, and the dividend growth. We'll look at yield. We're going to compare it side by side. We'll actually go attribute by attribute as well,
Ooh.
and see where it shakes out. Right?
Let them know. Let's do it. All right. So Dow's price to earnings ratio 50.99, earnings per share 225, P ratio of 22.66. Lanny, what are we talking about with LYB?
Trading at 88.49. I like them under $90, so they finally cracked below there. 754 is the earnings per share estimate for 2024. 11.74 p, so half of Dow currently,
I like it. I
right?
dig Dow's dividend, $2.80. Earnings per share is 225. We've talked about it already plenty of times on this video. That's a very high payout ratio. In fact, that's a payout ratio over 100%, not 101%. It's not just barely over 100%, it's 124% for Dow.
Yeah, so now it's cracked above the 100% mark. Great. No, I'm just kidding. So yeah, that's part of the issue, right? You look at LYB, not phenomenal, right? They pay a $5.36 per share dividend per year. Obviously, per quarter, it's about a buck 34, but their payout ratio is about 71%. So, far lower, below 100%. Not, still high, not exactly what I like to see, but, um, you know, 124% versus 71%. I know one looks better than the other.
Yep, that's right. And we'll have a similar thing when we talk about the dividend growth. It's gonna be difficult, lady. I don't know how many places these
See
are.
it. What you got, brother?
Your Dow, goose egg for dividend growth, goose egg for 5-year average growth rate. Dow does not increase that dividend. There's no dividend growth, much like their revenue, much like their earnings, and now much like their free cash flow.
And you wouldn't want them to grow their dividend too. So at least they're not doing that like some dumbass companies like it and Plot. Um,
Take it easy. Take it easy. No, I'm kidding. Yeah, you're right. What about LIB
yeah,
comparison?
LIB, again, they're pretty consistent. They've been doing it for 13 years. They've had some great years. They've had some pretty mediocre years, but the average increase is about 6.63%. So doing it for 13 years, you got to like that. You definitely get a much better, trajectory to your income, at least when you buy LYB, which again, it's all about building a growing passive income stream here as a dividend investor.
Such a fascinating deviation between the two companies from dividend growth
Yeah.
perspective. Let's see what their yield looks like. Dow's yield is 5.49%, which is just below its 5-year average dividend yield of 5.56%. LYB, what's their story?
Well, story is it's a little bit higher actually, 6.06%. So you get about 57 basis points, to the yield there.
Yeah. So that's nice. All right, that's interesting. So both are high yielding stocks. Performance-wise, Dow's down 7.48%, up 3.55% over the last 6 months, down 4.60% over the last month.
Yep. And LYB, again, pretty similar on a year to date, down 8.4%. So, losing about, almost 60 basis points there on the stock price. Last month, though, down 8% versus Dow only down about 5%. So I'm
Interesting.
definitely down a lot more this year than Dow.
Yeah, so let's put the chart up here, Lanny. Let's ask the question. Are you going to be moving away from Dow into LYB? What's your overall thought seeing them through our screen or putting them head to head? Which stock is better?
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't, taking Dow just by itself, it doesn't make sense to hold that stock anymore. So I'm more than likely going to exit Dow stock.
Oh,
I only have a $46 realized unrealized gain. My net realized gain year to date is only $12.73. So essentially, it's not material really. You add that up, and that's $60 year to date on a realized gain standpoint.
yeah, not that it matters. Their ex-dividend date's November 29th, payout in December. So it's not like you have like 2 days to get to a dividend either. So there's not much incentive.
Yeah, that's valid. And if you take a look at LYB, if I sold Dow, I would get about $1,587. And to get the same income I was getting from Dow, I only have to invest 1438 into LYB right now. So I'd still have about $148 in cash that I could buy a share of VYM with, or do whatever I want with it to add even some extra safe yield.
A lot of
If I
natty
wanted
daddies you can buy with that.
a lot of natty daddies, or what I might do, I could sell Dow. I could buy some LYB. Maybe use half of it,
Mhm.
look at what earnings does next week, see
Yeah.
if the price, if there's like a similar Dow earnings release, if it drops like another 5, 10%, I can then, grab some there. I don't really see much of an upside on LYB. I see more downside risk right now with what Dow came out with. Um, but what do you I mean, Bro? What's your take before we ask the community
Yeah,
here?
I mean, I agree about Dow. Just taking it step by step, right? Let's look at one and then let's look at two. The metrics don't make sense for Dow right now from a dividend investor standpoint. You're not getting dividend growth, and the dividend is potentially at risk, and especially if that free cash flow continues to deteriorate. Don't care what management says. Management can adjust earnings however they want to. GAAP earnings are going to eventually run out at a certain point at this rate. Like the numbers don't lie, no matter how you
Yeah,
adjust them in the long run. LYB is also a great stock to buy separately. Like, even if you weren't talking about Dow, if I wanted to pick up a share or two to add to my LYB position, very much consider it right now. So yeah, if you're talking about moving Dow into LYB with those two independent analyses combined, I get it.
yeah.
Yeah.
So community, what do you guys think when you look at Dow stock and LYB stock? Do you want to sell Dow? Do you want to swap a perfect swap with Dow and LYB? Or would you take Dow and invest it elsewhere? Let us know in the comments as well on that. Really appreciate you guys stopping by. Like the video, subscribe. But very curious on what your guys' take is here on this stock swap.
We forgot to tell them something, Manny. What did we forget
What
to
is
tell the community?
what is it? You tell them. You tell them.
You want me to tell them?
Yeah, I want you to
You want
tell them.
me?
Come
You
on,
want
Bert.
me?
The hurt.
All right, all right. We'll get cousin Tony and tell him you're either with us or you are against us, Jack.
That was Bert the Hurt Locker and Lanny, the legend from the Dividend Diplomats over and out.